Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 235. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I'm going to pick up where I left off in the last podcast, and we were discussing the appearance that former President Donald Trump had last week on Wednesday. He was at the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago, and there was some controversy there that ensued from that interview that has been basically taking up all of the oxygen around this campaign, this issue, and the speculation over who Kamala Harris's vice president is going to be has really been, taking up all of the oxygen in this campaign. And we're going to pick up talking about that controversy, the appearance that Trump had at the National Association of Black Journalists last week. And before I get into that, we're going to pick right back up where we left off in the last podcast. But before we get back into that, I wanted to talk about this episode of Seinfeld, because this came to mind when I was preparing for this podcast, this episode where Elaine, the Elaine character, has a new boyfriend, and Jerry says that he's black and thinks that he is a black man. And then Elaine, not knowing what his ethnicity is, she's, she doesn't seem to care. If he's black or if he's white or whatever it is. And then, so the whole episode is about, is this guy a black guy, and is Elaine dating a black guy, and is she in an interracial relationship? Now, I'm explaining this because I'm going to play this clip, and I don't know if they're going to allow me to post it on YouTube. It may be cut out, but I'm explaining what's happened. They're having this conversation after this guy leaves about if he's black or not. And you'll notice that the George character, gets uncomfortable with the conversation. He's like, should we be talking about this? We shouldn't be talking about this. That white people should not be talking about this subject is the joke here. But all jokes, if you understand comedy, are based on reality, and the reality and the way the reason that they're able to make this joke is that white people typically are uncomfortable with having this conversation. And it's really funny. You're going to notice, I'm going to play the clip. They're having the conversation. George is getting uncomfortable, and he says, should we be talking about this? We shouldn't be talking about this. And then as they're talking about it, a black waitress walks to their table, and then they just reach in their pocket and just start throwing a bunch of money on the table because they're uncomfortable, because she walks up and hears them talking about this guy's race, if he's black or not. I just thought it was funny, but I'm playing this to make a larger point. Take a listen to this clip.
Are people I know, Jerry, George.
Nice meeting you. I gotta run, Elaine. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Still no putty?
I think his answer machine's broken, so I just gave up. What do you think?
What, about you dating a black guy? What's the big deal?
What black guy?
Daryl. He's black, isn't he?
He is?
No, he isn't.
Isn't he, Elaine?
You think?
I thought he looked Irish.
What's his last name?
Nelson?
That's not Irish.
I think he's black.
Should we be talking about this?
I think it's okay.
No, it isn't.
Why not?
Well, it would be okay if Daryl was here.
If he's black.
Is he black?
Does it matter?
No, of course not. I'd just like to know.
Oh, so you need to know.
No, I don't need to know. I just think it would be nice if I knew. Should I take that?
One second.
Oh, here.
Yeah, hang on.
So it's funny. The funny part is how George, is getting uncomfortable. Should we be talking about this? We shouldn't be talking about this. And that's the way I feel that a lot of these Republicans who are cringing at the fact that Donald Trump showed up at the National Association of Black Journalists and dared to question Kamala Harris's identity. And the Republicans are, should we be talking about this? No, we shouldn't be talking about this. We want to focus on the issues. We don't want to focus on this. And like this article here, Republicans cringe at Trump's undisciplined attacks. There were no attacks on Harris, a public nervous breakdown. So these are the white Republicans getting nervous, getting antsy, like George was in that scene, because they're talking about a topic that is supposed to be taboo for them, that Trump shouldn't be talking about this because he's a white guy and it's taboo for them. We would much rather focus on the issues than talking about this. And these people couldn't be more wrong. Here's a clip of CNN asking Republicans about this controversy. Take a listen.
Was it appropriate for Trump to go after Harris?
Go after again. He didn't go after anyone. It's ridiculous.
Go after Harris's racial identity?
No, I don't think so. My problem with Vice President Harris is the policy choices she's made.
Anything that takes us away from the failure in the economy, the failure at the border,
the issues,
national security, in my opinion, is a distraction.
The fact that Donald Trump uses satire to point that out.
And it wasn't satire. So they're all saying, no, we shouldn't be talking about this. We don't want to talk about her identity or race. We want to focus on the issues. This should be an issues campaign. We don't want to, talk about her identity and the fact that she's phony as a $3 bill. These guys couldn't be more wrong, but they're uncomfortable. Like George in that scene, they're uncomfortable. Should we be talking about this? No, we don't want to talk about this. This is taboo for us. And Donald Trump would love nothing more than to talk about the issues. But what you got to understand, and how brilliant what Donald Trump did last week is because, like I've been explaining to you over the last couple of podcasts, is that Kamala Harris's her whole campaign is based on hype. It's based on Fyre Festival, Coney 2012 type of hype. Viral campaigns that are going on TikTok, marketing campaigns, marketing strategy. It has nothing to do with substance. There's no substance. Kamala Harris doesn't want to talk about the issues, but her campaign being, especially right out the gate, as soon as Joe Biden dropped out, there was this hype, this huge hype where Kamala Harris was up here, and Donald Trump, strategically in what he did and that appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists last week, he brought her down. He says, let's go ahead and bring her down to earth, and then we can talk about the issues. Don't talk about the issues while she's running this hype campaign and she's up here with all this hype. The issues, talking about the border, talking about the economy, that stuff's not going to break through while she's up here. So what Donald Trump strategically did in that appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists last week was bring her down to earth. Now we can talk about the issues. Really interesting. Rachel Scott, who was a journalist from ABC who was hostile in her confrontation to Donald Trump in that appearance. She's the one who introduced him and fired off the very hostile first question and kind of set the energy for the interview. She was on the This Week show with George Stephanopoulos this week on yesterday. I want you to listen to what this woman says.
USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page and senior political columnist Jonathan Martin. Rachel, I have to begin with you. We've all seen your interview with President Trump up there on the stage at the NABJ. You are always prepared, but were you surprised by the Donald Trump you saw?
I think in many ways, George, former President Donald Trump leaned into a territory that many Republicans were hoping that he would just flat out avoid, especially when it comes to questioning the racial identity, the heritage, especially in front of the National Association of Black Journalists, of Vice President Kamala Harris. We have heard from Republicans say, even privately, that they want this to be about the issues. Redirect back to the issues. That is not what the former president did on that stage.
That's not what the former president did on the stage. He didn't talk about the issues. I wonder why he didn't talk about the issues, Rachel Scott. Is it because of the questions that you asked him? Did you ask him questions about the border? No, you didn't ask him questions about the border. Did you ask him questions about the economy? No, she didn't ask him questions about the economy. Did you ask him questions about Ukraine policy, foreign policy? What's going on in Israel or Gaza? Did you ask him any questions about that? Did you ask him any questions about, what questions did, you're the one who asked the questions, lady. And now she's on This Week yesterday saying that Republicans are saying that he shouldn't have talked about race and questioning Kamala Harris's racial identity. He should have stuck to the issues. The reason that Donald Trump was talking about race is because this woman brought up race. She asked a question about race. She drove the discussion to if Donald Trump believed that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire or not, which she absolutely was. This was all driven by you, Rachel Scott. And now you're on here saying that, oh, Republicans are squeamish. Of course they're squeamish. Of course they're squeamish. Like George Costanza, we shouldn't be talking about this. Of course they're squeamish. But Donald Trump didn't bring up race. This didn't happen because of Donald Trump. This happened because of you, lady. You started talking about race. This was your question. You steered the focus away from the issues because you support Kamala Harris, and the last thing Kamala Harris wants to do is focus on the issues. That's the last thing she wants to do. But take a listen to this. Rachel Scott is the one who is asking the question. She is the one taking the discussion to race, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just responding to the questions that she asks.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is.
You know what? I just noticed something really interesting because in her question, she says that some people have described Kamala Harris as a DEI hire and because of her Black and Indian heritage. She says, and Indian heritage. Donald Trump asked her to clarify, to give a definition. She repeats the question to clarify it, but she only mentions Black the second time. I think this is very interesting.
Capitol Hill have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman.
First Black and Asian American woman. So it's both, biracial, Black and Asian. That's who she is, Black and Asian. So she mentions both. But watch when she clarifies it. She only mentions Black. Do you think that Kamala Harris is on the ticket just because she's Black? She doesn't mention the Asian part.
To serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that
not a definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words.
then. Would you give me a definition?
That's literally the words. It's not a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say.
What happened to the Asian part? What happened to the Asian part? At first you said Black and Asian. Do you believe that he's only on the ticket just because she's a Black woman now? What happened to the Asian part?
No, you have to define it. Define it for me if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black. until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known
Genius.
as black.
Genius.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black
I
woman. She went to a
respect either
historically black
one.
college.
I love what he says right there, because they try to act like he's attacking Kamala Harris and this is an attack. He's being disrespectful. He says, I respect both. He says, it doesn't matter to me if she's black or if she's Indian. That at first she's promoting herself in California politics as Indian. And then when she gets ready to go national, then she becomes black. I mean, which is it? And now Donald Trump knows what he's doing. He is throwing a grenade into their identity politics game. They are the ones that play identity politics. Everything is about identity and race and how you identify. That stuff is important to them, as I demonstrated in the last podcast, that the pressure was being put on Joe Biden to pick not only a woman, a black woman. You know, this stuff is important to them. So they're the identity politics people. And that's what all of this hype around Kamala Harris, particularly initially when Joe Biden dropped out and she became the presumptive nominee. I mean, most of the hype around her doesn't have anything to do with policy. Doesn't even have anything to do with an agenda. All of the hype around her and her candidacy is about her identity, is only about identity. So the identity is important to them, not to us. I don't care about Kamala Harris's identity or anybody's identity. I care about your competency and if you are qualified to do the job. I don't care about your identity. That's important to them. So what Donald Trump is doing here, he is throwing a grenade into their little game, their little identity politics game. And it's absolutely brilliant, even though he's getting a lot of criticism from Republicans, particularly white Republicans, that are shying away. Oh, we shouldn't be talking about this, like George Costanza. No, we should be talking about this because this goes to the heart of who Kamala Harris is, that she is a phony, that she is inauthentic. Her entire platform that she ran on in 2020 has changed just 4 years later. 4 years later, she has an entirely different platform from the one that she ran on in 2020. Everything about her is phony and inauthentic, and Donald Trump doing this highlights the fact that she's phony and inauthentic. So let's go ahead and bring this hype on down. Let's go ahead and bring you down to ground level, and then we can talk about the issues. Now, Donald Trump, I think what he did here is absolutely brilliant, but again, they're the identity politics people. We talked about this last week, how they start off her campaign having segregated Zoom calls based on race. That black-only Zoom calls and white-only Zoom calls, like the water fountains in the South during Jim Crow. That's the way they segregated their Zoom calls, is based on race and gender. Take a listen.
Okay, earlier this week, we brought you the news of how on Sunday night, after President Biden dropped out of the race, the activist group Win with Black Women literally almost broke Zoom, organizing a call with 44,000 people to make sure Kamala Harris wins the White House this November. In 24 hours, that one Zoom call raised more than $1.5 million for the Harris campaign. And at 44,000 people, the call was only about 1,000 people short of the world record for the biggest Zoom call ever. Now, the world record held for another 4 days, but it was broken last night. Last night, an event called White Women Answer the Call held their own Zoom to organize for Kamala Harris, inspired by Sunday's Win with Black Women call.
So they're having segregated Zoom calls. Black women only, white women only, black men, then the black men only Zoom call, then the whites only men Zoom call, then the Pacific Islander only Zoom call, and then they did the LGBT Zoom call. See what I mean? The identity politics is their game. That's the game that they like to play, and Donald Trump threw a grenade in their little identity politics game. I want to say something about these Zoom calls too. She's trying to make a big deal about 160,000 white women on a Zoom call. and 44,000 black women. You're talking about 200,000 people on these Zoom calls. You add white men and the black men call, and you're maybe at, 250,000. I'll be generous. Maybe you have 300,000 people on these Zoom calls. 200 million people will vote in the election in November. So I'm not impressed by these Zoom calls. And the big thing, again, that they like to focus on from these Zoom calls is the money raised through Act Blue. And we've already talked about how you can trust that. You can't. This is more of their left-wing segregation and racial focus. They're the party of segregation. Oh, I wanted to play this Scott Jennings clip on CNN, and where he talks about these segregated Zoom calls. I thought this was interesting.
The Democrats have a very clear path to victory, and now multiple paths to 270, in a way that the Republicans have a very, very narrow one in terms of who their constituency is. And so we cannot at all overplay the fact that in just the last week, we have seen black women and black men and LGBTQ people, the whole queer communities come out, Latinos, Native folks, and Two-Spirit folks, as well as white women answering the call. And tonight,
did they have a Two-Spirit Zoom call? I didn't hear about the Two-Spirit Zoom call.
The whole queer communities come out, Latinos, Native folks, and Two-Spirit folks, as well as white women answering the call. And tonight, right now, as we sit here, you've got white dudes for Kamala.
Can I ask a question?
So
white dudes only Zoom call.
In support of this candidate, and you win in America when you get all the people behind you, not just a small faction of them.
Quickly, Scott.
Can I? Yeah, I am mystified by the newfound Democrat obsession with racial segregation.
Newfound?
All this racial segregation. I mean, I guess the party's getting back to its roots, but
exactly.
I find this crazy.
Nothing newfound about it.
Principally organizing all of your supporters by race and forcing them all to get on these calls, and you have to be a certain race or gender to get on the calls. I find this to be completely bizarre.
She doesn't even shy away from it. She doesn't even shy away from it. He says that you're organizing these Zoom calls based on race and segregated Zoom calls. And she says, absolutely, Scott, and you don't have to understand it. You wouldn't understand it. You're a white guy. You're a white guy. Speaking of white guys, do you guys think it's interesting that Kamala Harris is only choosing from white guys to be her vice president pick? That the only people that she's looking at is white men. Do you guys think that's interesting? That she needs to show confidence with the electorate. So she's not interviewing any black men. She's not interviewing any women or women of color, white men. She goes right to white men. I just think that's very interesting. But she calls out Scott Jennings here and says, you don't have to understand it. Yes, we're segregating our Zoom calls. We believe in segregation.
And all this racial segregation. I mean, I guess the party's getting back to its roots. But I find this crazy. I mean, that you are principally organizing all of your supporters by race and forcing them all to get on these calls, and you have to be a certain race or gender to get on the calls. I find this to be completely
Scott.
bizarre behavior.
And we don't need you to understand it, because here's the thing. We know that we win when we bring together people and have a big tent coalition.
But you're not. You're
Everybody
separating
who makes
them.
up
You're
America.
dividing them.
No, we're actually bringing them together. And
You're
by
dividing
the way,
them.
just look at the numbers. We don't need to debate this. Look at the cash.
Look at the cash. Look at the Act Blue cash. Look at the Act Blue cash. We don't have to debate anything. We believe in segregation. We believe in segregation by race. The Democratic Party was the party of segregation during Jim Crow. And to this day, right now, they are the party of segregation. They are the ones focused on race. Donald Trump's not focused on race. Donald Trump didn't bring up race last week. The race hustler, Rachel Scott's the one that brought up race. And Donald Trump answered the question brilliantly. He's not the one that's focused on race and wants to talk about race all the time. It's the left. That's you guys. Take a listen to this clip.
UC Berkeley, which is publicly funded, hosted a graduation ceremony for black students only, an event the taxpayer-funded university has hosted every year since 2013. But critics say the event does more to divide students than to bring them together. Joining me now to talk about this is Leo Terrell, Fox News contributor and civil rights attorney. Leo, great to see you. Thanks for being here. You know, this is what the KKK used to do.
Absolutely.
Segregate
they were Democrats
by race. I mean, you know, progressives That's why I hate that term progressives. It's regressive. It's going back to what we decided
Absolutely.
we didn't want in this country.
All right, so that's enough. I don't have to play all that. So they were segregation. This is UC Berkeley. Liberals segregating commencement speeches based on race, whites only, blacks only. This is the Democratic Party. This is a story out of Boston, Massachusetts. Just a few months ago, over the holidays, the mayor of Boston, Massachusetts is Asian, and she likes to have people of color only holiday parties. Take a listen to this clip.
Tonight, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is defending a party that she hosted for an affinity group called Electeds of Color after a staff member in her office accidentally sent an email invitation to the full city council.
So she does this people of color only holiday party, no white people allowed. So they're supposed to send out the invitation to only the members of the government the city government that are people of color. Were only supposed to get the invitation only. But by mistake, they send the invitation to some white people, and the white people are like, "What? We're not invited to this holiday party? You're having segregated holiday parties? What's going on here?" But this is the Democratic Party. They're the ones that are focused on race. They're the ones who are focused on segregation. They're the ones that are focused on this nonsense. Yes, we would love nothing more than to talk about the border and to talk about the issues. So let's do that. Why are you guys talking about race so much?
Affinity group called Electeds of Color after a staff member in her office accidentally sent an email invitation to the full city council.
This has been a long-standing tradition. It was my turn to host. It's happened every single year, and also multiple other parties that everyone has been invited to. So, for example, Monday we're hosting.
We have other parties that everyone has been invited to. Just this particular holiday party wasn't for everyone. It was only for the people of color. White people are not allowed to this holiday party. Listen to what this fool is saying.
To the full city council.
This has been a long-standing tradition. It was my turn to host. It's happened every single year, and also multiple other parties that everyone has been invited to. So, for example, Monday we're hosting the holiday party that the city hosts every single year,
and white people are allowed to come too.
All of the city council, the state legislature, all of our elected officials, along with our cabinet, just to thank everyone and celebrate for the holidays.
Yeah,
so
white people are allowed to that one, but this people of color one is not for white people. White people are not allowed.
Invitations out there.
Now, the mayor says the annual party has been a tradition for more than a decade. This was her year to host it. The party was held last night. And as you heard her say right there is a planned party for all elected officials.
Yeah, we have another party for all elected officials, but we just had the people of color party where Whitey wasn't invited. No Whitey is allowed. This is the Democratic Party, people. This is who the Democratic Party has always been. Remember this story? Nury Martinez. She was the president of the city council in Los Angeles. It's just a few months ago. She had to resign after a leaked audio tape came out about her being extremely racist, talking about, how the blacks on the city council were working for the blacks, and then the Hispanics were on the side of the Hispanics, and just like prison. This woman's talking like the city council in LA is like a prison. That the Hispanics with the Hispanics, the blacks with the blacks, and the whites with the whites. But she's making reference to some white guy here that's on the city council, and she says, F that guy because he's with the blacks. F that guy because he's with the blacks. I mean, this is like prison. I mean, the city council in Los Angeles is like a prison. That the blacks are with the blacks, the Hispanics are with the Hispanics, and the whites are these are Democrats. Listen to this.
All the, folks like with Gascón, he did call me. He wants to have breakfast with me.
What's taking him so long?
I just said, hey, we need to talk.
You supported him from the...
All right, don't worry, I got you. So you'll start seeing them line up. Isaac was the first.
So that's what Nury comes out and says, F that guy, he's with the blacks. This woman right here, F that guy, he's with the blacks. Like it's prison. It's ridiculous. F that guy, he's with the blacks. And here she is with her favorite Indian black congresswoman, or maybe this is when she was attorney general. But yeah, this is the Democratic Party, people. Democratic Party. I mean, this is mental illness. Remember this little girl during the Black Lives Matter Summer of Love? Her mom made her color out this little sign that says that she's privileged. She's privileged because she's white. And kneel down. This is the mental illness in the Democratic Party. They are the ones that are focused on race. This was also during 2020, during COVID. I don't know if you can see the sign, but this was at the University of Michigan, either Michigan or Michigan State. And this is a black girl. I don't know if you can read the sign, but the sign says, "Free masks and gloves for minorities only." $10 per item for white people is what this sign says. So this is what the Democratic Party is creating. They want to take us back to segregation. They want to take us back to a time where everything was about race and gender. This is their little party, and Donald Trump threw a grenade. He threw a grenade into their little game. Now, I've been telling you that they want to run this hype campaign, Fire Festival, Coney 2012 type of campaign for Kamala Harris. But it's even more interesting than that. They are trying to run, the same type of campaign that they ran for Obama in 2008. Like, so many people are making a relationship to this Kamala Harris campaign to Obama in 2008. I have multiple clips here to share with you of people making that relationship, and I'm going to explain to you what that means. But not only are they making that relationship, now you have David Plouffe, who was Obama's campaign manager in 2008, joining Harris's campaign. So that lets you know that this is the same playbook, the same type of playbook that they ran with Obama in 2008. Take a listen to this clip about Plouffe.
Well, our Jeff Zeleny is now confirming this report that David Plouffe, the campaign manager for Barack Obama's historic 2008 presidential campaign, is now joining Vice President Harris's campaign as a senior advisor. That's according to a Democrat close to the campaign. I don't know that if it's, I don't think we have a sense if it's a change or just an addition to having
he's going to be running
one
it.
of the most celebrated and smart Democratic political strategists join the team to offer his counsel and advice is obviously going to be welcome news to many Democrats who are following this. We'll see if that means he displaces someone and if this is the beginning of a shift of command at the Harris campaign. When she took over the operation, she was very clear that Jen O'Malley Dillon and Julie Chavez Rodriguez were going to stay in their roles. So this may be bolstering that.
So Plouffe is going to be running the campaign. He doesn't come on just as an advisor. And that lets you know that they're going to be running the exact same campaign that Barack Obama ran in 2008. The only problem is the political landscape has changed significantly. That Barack Obama himself couldn't run the same campaign that he ran in 2008 and win. But David Plouffe is he's a very smart political strategist. At least he's had great success. He was able to get Obama elected in 2008, and then after getting Obama elected, he went over to England and got David Cameron elected right after that. So he has successes under his belt. The only problem is that if he's going to come and run the same campaign that he ran in 2008 with Obama and try to pass Kamala off and do the same things that he did with Obama in 2008, it's not going to work. It's a completely different political landscape, and quite frankly, Obama was an unknown in 2008. You just had two terrible terms of George W. Bush. George W. Bush leaves office with a 28% approval rating. So I say this all the time, that an unknown like Barack Obama could have never gotten elected if George W. Bush wouldn't have left the country in the manner that he left it in, setting up the change candidate. And that was all by design. If you really understand, I don't have time to get into it, but Obama was the plan. That Obama didn't just come out of nowhere. He was the plan to be the next president. But there was the political situation that we had in 2008 with, basically George W. Bush destroying the Republican Party. There was no chance that a Republican was going to win in 2008 after the 8 years that George Bush had just had. So that's a difference in the political landscape. Another difference is that Barack Obama was an unknown. He was very unknown. He had gone from the state legislature in Illinois to being a state senator in Illinois. He was only a senator for 2 years, so he didn't have a long legislative record that could be hung over his head. He was basically an unknown. But if you look at what Obama did in 2008, and then you look in 2012 when he ran for re-election, he got 4 million fewer votes. He's the first president in American history to get fewer votes and win re-election. So what I'm telling you is that, and I'm one of those people, I voted for Obama in 2008. I fell for the hope and change BS, but it didn't take me long to figure out that I'd been had, like 4 million other Americans who didn't vote for him in 2012, to figure out that this guy is a con artist and he conned us. It didn't take me long to realize that. And a lot of Americans, what I'm telling you is that their eyes were opened to Barack Obama. A lot of Black Americans as well. And that's where this debate around Kamala Harris's identity stems from, is because a lot of Black voters felt like, that Obama, we went to the polls for him at 96% in 2008 and we got nothing for it. Nothing for it because he doesn't identify as a Black American. We're going to get further into that, but that's another difference in this campaign that David Plouffe is going to find, that this campaign is going to be a little bit more challenging for Kamala Harris than the campaign that he had in 2008 with Obama. I want you to take a listen to some of these people relating this Kamala Harris campaign to Obama's 2008 run.
Let me say, first of all, it will be ugly. I think everything Donald Trump does is ugly. And J.D. Vance now is saying some horrible, sexist things. And, it just is what it is with the other side of the aisle. Let me first say, I've not seen this kind of excitement in Michigan since 2008, when we elected our first Black president, Barack Obama.
I haven't seen this type of excitement in Michigan since we elected Obama in 2008. Okay. There's another one.
This 16 years after Barack Obama became the first African-American president. The son of a white Kansan and a Black Kenyan, he too had a legal background. Robert Brule is a clinical professor of political science at UIC.
Their backgrounds are similar in that they came from highly educated middle-class backgrounds that were in part from the Midwest. They went to good schools.
Obama, Illinois senator until 2004. Harris, senator of California until 2021.
In both cases, when they ran for the Senate, they didn't come up through the grooming process. It sort of catapulted from the state level to the national level.
Many tonight are saying they have a renewed energy with Harris vying for the top seat, much like their excitement for then-President Obama.
So it's just like the Obama campaign in 2008. They have a lot in common. They have a lot more in common than what these people are saying. They're both biracial. They both were raised not by the Black side of their family. Barack Obama was raised by his white grandparents in Hawaii. Kamala Harris raised by her Indian mother. They have no connection to Southern Blacks who were in Jim Crow, who are former slaves, no connection. So those are some of the similarities that they have as well. But again, making the relationship to Obama's 2008 run, making the relationship to Obama, bringing on David Plouffe. And David Plouffe's not the only person from the Obama campaign that's joined Kamala Harris's campaign. They're going for the Obama 2008 type of campaign. This is the run that they're going after. And it's all about energizing the youth. It's all about hype, using TikTok, using Coney 2012 and celebrities and Fire Festival and celebrities. That's what this is all about. It's all based on hype. They don't want to talk about issues.
But also, look, when you look at the level of energy and sort of the stuff that's happening on social media organically, right, at the grassroots, Michael, I haven't seen anything like this. I'm going to say it. I'm going to get in trouble. But I haven't seen anything like this since 2008.
Okay, so I'm glad he went there. I'm glad he went there. And I'll tell you why I'm glad he went there. Because I said, and I've been saying since this whole thing started, this could be bigger than 2008. And I'm sorry, well, that ain't
bigger than 2008. This could be bigger than 2008, than Obama in 2008, is what these people are saying. This is crazy. This is crazy. Barack Obama got 96% of the black vote in 2008. Right now, Kamala Harris is polling at 78%. Joe Biden got 88% in 2020. She's still 10 points under Joe Biden right now in her polling with black voters. Where does she think that she's going to get, where she's going to make up that much ground with black voters between now and November? Are you listening to what black voters are saying? And no, they're not listening to what black voters are saying. This debate over Kamala Harris's identity that Donald Trump talked about, that was taboo for Donald Trump to talk about last Wednesday, black people have been having this conversation for years. This is a conversation that is not taboo for us. We've been having this conversation, talking about Kamala Harris's identity, talking about Barack Obama's identity, talking about, do they have a connection to us as Black Americans who are from the South, who descend from people that were in Jim Crow and were in slavery? Do they have a connection to us? We've been having this conversation. We've been having this conversation for years. This is Don Lemon and April. Oh, no, this isn't Don Lemon. This is Deborah Dickerson. And Deborah Dickerson is an author. She wrote a book called An American Story. What is it? It's author of An American Story, An End of Blackness. And she was on the Colbert Show, on the Daily Show, a few years ago. And Colbert asked her about Barack Obama's identity and if Barack Obama is black. And watch what she says. And the same thing that she says here about Barack Obama also is also true about Kamala Harris.
Deborah Dickerson. Ms. Dickerson, thank you for joining us.
Is true for Kamala Harris as well. Kamala Harris doesn't have any identity, any connection that connects her to Black Americans that politically speaking, Black Americans who have built up all of this political capital, beginning at the end of the Civil War, through Reconstruction, through Jim Crow, through civil rights. All of those struggles builds up political capital in this country. And Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, they don't get to spend that political capital because that capital doesn't belong to them. That's the argument that Black Americans have been making for years. And it's this subject is not taboo for Donald Trump to bring up. And it was brilliant for him to bring it up last week because he understands, this is what I've been telling you guys about the two different paradigms. There's one paradigm that the media, that the talking heads in the mainstream media present, and there's another paradigm that's going on in conversations online, on social media, in other media and outlets that are not mainstream. And this is a very vibrant conversation that's going on among Black people in those spaces, in those outlets. And it's different from the paradigm on the mainstream. What Donald Trump did last week is he threw a grenade in that paradigm, just like he did in the debate. I explained this to you before the debate. There were two different paradigms. There was the paradigm of people who don't listen to mainstream media. The mainstream media was telling you over and over again, no, Joe Biden's sharp. He's focused behind closed doors. Oh, those are cheap fakes and deep fakes, and can't believe those videos. That was one paradigm. And there was the other paradigm of people who believed that Joe Biden was cognitively impaired, and that he was demonstrating signs of senility and Parkinson's and whatever. And that was the other paradigm. And then when the debate happened, those two different paradigms crashed into each other. They met. So it's the same thing, that when you're watching MSNBC and Joy Reid and these talking heads on CNN criticizing Donald Trump, you got to understand there's this whole other paradigm. There's a whole other discussion going on that he's aware of, obviously. But that's why he brought it up, that these other people are not aware of. And of course, they got Republicans, white Republicans are getting, squeamish about the fact that he did bring it up. But I'm telling you that this is nothing new for us. The conversation that Donald Trump started and brought mainstream last week in that interview that he did with the National Association of Black Journalists, that conversation is a vibrant conversation that is going on and has been going on in the Black community, and not only in the Black community, as you're going to see I disagree, but moving right along, this is a video of an African man. This guy is an African man, and he's in a convenience store, and he's getting into a conversation with another African man that's filming, or a Black man that's filming the African man. So the man that's filming him is a Black man, and this guy makes this distinction. This African guy, he distinguishes himself different from the Black guy who's filming him. That the Black guy who's filming him is Black. He says, "I'm not Black, I'm African." Take a listen.
Man, Black folks always stealing something.
I'm not Black folks, I'm African.
That's the same thing, you Black.
It's not the same thing. We're different than you guys.
Look at your hand.
No, we're different than you guys from here.
How are you different from me?
Oh, yeah. We're different.
How?
We don't do the same thing.
What you mean? So you better?
I'm not saying we better, but we do different stuff.
Like what? Give me an example.
We do different stuff. We African, we do different stuff.
Give me an example. Listen. Like y'all eat rabbits and we eat.
So listen, he says that we're different. I'm not Black like you. I'm African. I'm not Black like you. I'm African. We do different stuff. We do different stuff. Now listen to this. So then now he brings Obama into it. Listen what this African guy says about Obama.
Pigs? Yeah, hold on. When Obama win, I see the Black folks started dancing. You know what I told them? I said, no, it's not your win. It's Africa who win.
Listen, so he says that when Black people in America were celebrating when Obama won, that he told Black people in America that you shouldn't be celebrating. This isn't your win, you Black Americans. That this is Africa's win. Africa won, not American Blacks, because we're different than you. Again, this conversation is a very vibrant conversation that has been going on for a very long time in the Black community.
I said, no, it's not your win. It's Africa who win. Believe me. And you better...
Oh, so Obama, you celebrated too?
Of course, Obama is African.
So why they can't celebrate?
Did Jesse Jackson win? He's never going to be able to win.
Did Jesse Jackson win? So he's distinguishing between Jesse Jackson and Obama. Now, what's the difference between Jesse Jackson? I mean, Jesse Jackson comes from the soil. Jesse Jackson is related and comes from people that were enslaved. That were Jesse Jackson marched with Martin Luther King. He was there for the civil rights struggle. He was there for all of that stuff. Jesse Jackson is different from Obama because Jesse Jackson is a Black American and Obama is African. Now, Obama's not really African. The African Obama is not Barack Hussein Obama's real father. Obviously, Frank Marshall Davis is his father, but I'll leave that alone. Obama is African according to what they tell us and what this guy believes, and Africans are different than Black Americans. This is true for Kamala Harris as well. Listen.
African who win. Believe me. And you better.
Oh, so Obama, you celebrated too?
Of course, Obama is African.
So why they can't celebrate?
Did Jesse Jackson win? He never gonna be able to win. Jesse Jackson, did he win?
You said.
Did he win?
Hold up.
Did
You said we was dancing when Obama won.
Listen, y'all don't act right.
Y'all don't act right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you do.
No, yeah, that's why Obama win. This doesn't win. Because that's what.
So you say the African Americans in America don't act right?
No.
Y'all don't act right. Y'all, we're different. Africans, we're different from y'all, and y'all don't act right, is what this African guy said.
And you do.
We do. That's why Obama over there.
And the evidence of that we act better than you and that we're different than you, and is because Obama was able to win and Jesse Jackson wasn't able to win. That's what he says. All right, let's listen to April Ryan here. Have a discussion with Don Lemon, talking about Kamala Harris. And is she African American? Does she have a connection to African descendants of slave and Jim Crow and slavery and all of that? Listen to this conversation. Don Lemon, April Ryan.
Black woman.
Okay, that's why I agree with that. I agree with that. But is she African American? No. But is she African American? There's a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is trying to take anything away from her.
Let's go down into her lineage.
I think you're falling into a trap of that. All she had to do was say, "I am black, but I'm not African American." That's it.
I think there's actually a trap. I'm not falling in. Let me finish. Hold on. I'm not falling into a trap by that. When she goes down her lineage, many Africans landed in Jamaica and all these other Caribbean islands. So she could indeed.
Jamaica was just like the United States of America, just like India. Jamaica was a British colony. So India, Jamaica, and the United States were all British colonies. And so someone from India who, when England was colonizing India, Indians of affluence were going all over the British Empire, So going to Jamaica, going to any of the other, there was a time where the sun didn't set on the British Empire, is what is famously said about the British Empire. So anywhere in the British Empire, if you were an Indian who was a fluency of in the British Empire, you would go anywhere. You would go to Jamaica, maybe come to the United States, maybe go to England and be there in London. There's tons of Indians there in London. It doesn't mean that just because her family was there in Jamaica that they were black. There's white Jamaicans, there's Indian Jamaicans, there's black Jamaicans. So just because her father is from Jamaica, that doesn't mean that he's African or that he's black. So I just want to make that clear.
In Jamaica and all these other Caribbean islands. So she could indeed
Jamaica's
be
not America.
African American mixed with others. But she is
Jamaica's not America.
But she is a black woman. She was born here.
So I just find it interesting, and I don't have a lot more time, but I just find it interesting that a few years ago, it was okay for them to have this conversation on CNN and talk about Kamala Harris's identity, question her identity, and all of that is what's going on between these two black individuals. You can notice the two guys in the middle aren't saying anything. It's April Ryan and Don Lemon having the discussion because it's taboo for them. It's taboo for the white guys to say anything. So the conversation is going on between the two black people, and they're questioning Kamala Harris's identity, and it was fine on CNN a few years ago. Donald Trump does it. Oh my God, clutching pearls. Oh my God, white guy is not supposed to be talking about this. White guys shouldn't be saying this. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. And especially when he's asked about it. If Donald Trump would have just brought it out of nowhere and just dropped that in an interview, that would have been different. But he was asked about it, and in his answer, he addressed something that everybody has been questioning. Donald Trump, in answering the question, he addresses something that we've been talking about for years. These guys are talking about it right here on CNN, and now they're clutching their pearls and saying, this is taboo, we can't talk about it. What's going on here?
I'm black, but I'm not African American. That's it.
Don, I think not falling in a trap. I'm not falling in. Let me finish. Hold on. I'm not falling into a trap by that. When she goes down her lineage, many Africans landed in Jamaica and all these other Caribbean islands. So she could indeed
Jamaica's
be
not America.
African American mixed with other races. But she is
Jamaica's not America.
But she is a black woman. She was born
did not
here.
Come out of Jim Crow.
Okay, well let's go
saying.
into Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz.
No, let's go into Ted Cruz. No, we're not talking about Ted Cruz, April Ryan. We're talking about Kamala phony ass Kamala Harris. This was a video that was going viral over the weekend. This guy's in a barbershop in somewhere in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if he's in Philadelphia or where they are, Pittsburgh, but he's in a barbershop in Pennsylvania, and he's asking these black men about Kamala Harris. This video is just from this weekend, CBS News. Take a listen.
Kamala Harris, okay? Is Kamala going to make you a little more likely or less likely to vote Democrat?
Well, I guess, hold on, first, Ray, hold on, Ray. Is Kamala black, yes or no?
I'm going to let her speak on that. But to me, no.
Oh, is Kamala black, yes or no?
I share that same view.
Wow, is Kamala black, yes or no?
I heard she was. I heard she's half black and half Asian.
It feels like she black when she want to be. I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to be honest. Huh?
I feel that same.
Huh? Wow. Yeah. She uses the black card when she have to.
So this is going on in a black barbershop. Black people are having this conversation. Black people been talking about this. This is not a taboo conversation. There's nothing taboo about this in the black community. And there was nothing wrong with Donald Trump bringing it up, especially when he is asked about it. Well, it's not just black people that are having this conversation. The other half of Kamala Harris's heritage, I suppose, is what they tell us. The Indian half, the half that there's no question about. There's question about the black half. There's no question about the Indian half. That part of her heritage. Those people are also having this conversation. So this is not a conversation that's only going on in the black community. In the Indian community, this is going on as well. Take a listen.
Because people are very upset about this, and I think, frankly, a lot of it is crocodile tears. I think that Kamala Harris is somebody who was raised very much almost identical to me. Mm-hmm. She was raised basically by an Indian professor, South Indian specifically. And for the vast majority of her early life, identified as Indian. Her mother even said that she culturally identifies as Hindu. It is clear, though, that after she attended Howard University, that being quote unquote black and black only became the identity that she began to ascribe, except when politically convenient.
Absolutely.
So,
what he says here is absolutely right. That she was raised Indian. So he's an Indian. And he says that she was raised just like me with an Indian mother who is a professor. I guarantee that we ate the same foods. We did the same cultural things. Hindu, Indian. She was raised just like me. She went to college. Then she turned black, but only when it was political expedient for her. Because when she went into politics in San Francisco, she embraced her Indian heritage again when it was politically expedient in San Francisco to run as an Indian instead of a black. And then when she wanted to go from local politics, from San Francisco, from California to national, then it became important for her to embrace black again.
That being quote unquote black and black only became the identity that she began to ascribe, except when politically convenient. So
Absolutely.
Li Fang reported in his Substack several days ago that she ran as quote Kamala Devi Harris. Devi is her middle name. It's an Indian word as well. As South Asian in her first race in 2003, but by 2020 was listing her in her bio only as a black woman. And
those are the records, that when she ran in 2003, that she was only South Asian. She was only promoting herself as South Asian. And then when she started to go national, then she started promoting herself as black again because it was politically expedient. The woman's a phony. The woman is phony as a $3 bill. That's one Indian. Listen to what Mindy says here in their little cooking segment that they do here. Another Indian woman. Listen to what this Indian woman says about her.
Okay, so what we're going to cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about.
So why is it such a secret that she's Indian? If she's embracing herself as biracial, this little segment that they do here is in 2019. So she's already a senator. She's already, gone national. So by that time, she's only promoting herself as black. So the Indian people is what Mindy is saying here is the Indian people like, do you know that Kamala Harris is Indian, that she's Indian? A lot of people didn't know that she's Indian. Why? Because she's promoting herself as only black now that she's on the national stage. And a lot of people, if you don't live here in California, if you haven't followed her entire career, then you wouldn't even know that she promoted herself as Indian and when she first started running for office, and now it's all black.
You know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
Yeah.
All right, so here's another Indian as well. Don't have a lot more time. Let's listen to Vivek Ramaswamy, another Indian. Listen to his point of view.
Yeah, so look, on a very personal level, my parents were immigrants to this country, legal immigrants from southern India. Very same part of India that her mother also immigrated from. I think it's a hard fact, Martha, it's just a fact, whether you like it or not, that many Indian Americans in the United States are indeed somewhat offended by the way Kamala has suddenly cast aside the Indian American side.
So it's not only, so black people are offended too. So the Indians are offended and the black people are offended. And this is a conversation that is going on in both communities. All these people, Shagar, he says that he speaks to tons of Indians who say this, that this is going on in the Indian community. Mindy, this is what we're saying to each other in the Indian community. Vivek Ramaswamy, that we talk about this in the Indian community, just like what's going on in the black community, that we think that she's a chameleon, that we think that she's a fraud, that she's not embracing her Indian heritage at times, and she's leaning more into her black heritage. And it's offensive, is what Vivek Ramaswamy says.
In the United States are indeed somewhat offended by the way Kamala has suddenly cast aside the Indian American side of her identity. She leaned into it when she ran for office in California. Big Asian American and Indian American population. Mm-hmm. So she wore that when it was convenient. She's wearing a different identity now when it's politically convenient on a national stage. Personally, I don't think we should be relying on these ethnic identities at all. We're actually American. And the problem is when you're Kamala Harris and you actually do lean into your identity politics, then you open the door to that type of criticism.
He's exactly right. When you are the party of segregation, when you're having segregated Zoom calls, when you're hiring people based on their identity, when you're focusing, then you leave yourself open to the man dropping a grenade into your little identity politics party. And that's what Donald Trump did last week. And that's why they're all mad, because Donald Trump brought up a subject and brought it to the mainstream that they really didn't want to talk about, because they're trying to have this huge hype campaign and base it all on identity, and it has no substance at all. Let's talk about the issues. Nobody wants to talk about race. Nobody wants to talk about her identity. I don't care about her identity. I care about her policy. But that's what she's running from. And she's using her identity to hide from her policies. Thank you guys for listening. And I will be back on Friday. Hope you guys have a great week. And I'll see you on Friday.